welcome to the first edition of Behind the Success, a special series by NewsDirect TV. In today's edition, we're having a special guest, Nathan Wachuku. Is the CEO and chairman of TerraHaptix, and is also the co-founder of Klas. Nathan dropped out of college at the age of 18, and ever since, his success story has been something inspiring. And we just thought it wise to have Nathan on the show today. It's good to have you on the show today. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really great. Very nice to be here.
Oh, it's a pleasure. So Nathan, there's one question I'm always curious about every time we talk. First time we interacted, you told me you started this company, you started business, you went to business at the age of 18. And, going through your profile, so you dropped out of college. And for me, in the African context, that's quite, it makes me very curious. So what inspired you to do that?
Yeah. I mean, it sort of goes back I would say 5-6 years ago. When I was 15, I think that was 6 years ago, I had an accident back in high school that made me blind in my right eye. I'm still blind till today in that eye. And, kind of waking up from that whole incident, because that put me away from school for a few months. And I remember kind of waking up and, there was a sense of urgency, this sense of purpose that I felt. When you're young, you feel you're invisible. You can do anything, you can kind of do anything in any way, and you still have a lot of time in your hands.
Okay.
But when you have a near-death experience, that sort of shows you that you're not invisible, and if you're not careful, you're going to waste your life. So I think that was the major spark that sort of brought all these dominoes together.
Okay. Were there any challenges, any pushbacks at that time you took that decision?
Well, when I was dropping out, I remember, I called my mom to the parlor, I sat her down and, I told her every way that my life could play out, all the different scenarios. Right now, in most media, they were saying that I dropped out because I felt I was too smart for school. That is not really the real truth. The real thing is that even with the scholarship that I had, the fees were still very high. This is like a college in Canada and the rest. My mom's a professor, but that doesn't mean she was very rich. So I think for me, I sort of just saw it as, okay, I need to be realistic with where we're coming from. Software is something that I feel very confident in learning by myself. And I sort of just sat her down and I showed her the different ways that if I had gone to school, it wouldn't have worked out, because I have a younger sister that is going to soon join me in school. It just didn't make sense, financially. Once I convinced her, I didn't care about anyone else. She was the only one. So, most other people were against it, but I don't care about their opinion.
Yeah, but that was really great. And, becoming a CEO at 18, how was it like? How did it feel like?
It's not like what you see in the movies. I'll say it like that, I think Silicon Valley has sort of glamorized, the whole young teenage dropout CEO stuff. If you watch movies like The Social Network, you would think that being a young CEO is basically hosting parties, traveling around the world, this and that. I can tell you, for the first 2 years of running Klas, I didn't go anywhere. It's a lot harder. It's a lot of work. You're going to age a lot faster, and both mentally and physically.
Well, you're looking younger. You're not aging at all. Are you sure?
Are you sure? Many people tell me the opposite too. So it's especially kind of managing people that are for the longest time I was the youngest in my company. Right now I'm the second youngest. I had to get one person that was younger than me. But yeah, it's I think that people management especially was the hardest. But yeah, it's eventually, just like everything else, it gets routine and you sort of know how to handle it.
Okay, speaking of routine, so how were you able to, put a balance to things? You're trying to put in the work of, okay, I want the systems in my company to be perfect. I'm also looking for funding for the ideas that I have.
Um, yeah, when it comes to fundraising, so for my first company, Klas, so far it's 3 years old. So far we have raised $1.3 million over this last 3 years.
Amazing.
So when I first started the company, we were able to raise an angel round of about $300,000. It was split in two. The 180K in early 2022. The remaining 120K came from Texas, Toronto, later in the year. I think it wasn't as hard as I expected it would be. When you're building something that people really want, if you have good traction, your solution is actually working. Yeah, fundraising is not as hard as people expect it to be. For example, the first 180K, I was able to raise the entire thing in 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, it was basically a whole domino effect.
I'll come for a master class.
You just have to sort of know the right people to talk to, the right network to approach. The tech ecosystem, sort of everybody knows everybody. If you talk to the right people, you can get access to another set of the right people, and it's sort of like a domino, you know. So yeah, I think that was kind of like, I didn't really let it bother me much. Whenever it's time for fundraising, I just still focus on what my work, what I'm here to do. And most times, the investors either come or they are attracted naturally. Like I don't really force much. This is the same for both Terra, both Klas and Terra. We haven't really forced much in terms of fundraising.
Okay. But in terms of the administrative aspects, managing staff, I also want to know how you balance that out.
Yeah, it's well, it helps to have a co-founder, a great co-founder. At Klas, my co-founder Lekan Adejumo has been a brother to me basically. So he's been one of the reasons why kind of I've been able to kind of hold everything together. So yeah, same with Terra too. So like having a great co-founder makes life a lot easier. I know a lot of people are not really for co-founders. There's a whole thing of I want everything for myself. I want 100%. I always tell people 100% of nothing is nothing. 10% of something is something. People have to sort of look in the long term into when it comes to company building. So I think that's and in terms of the exact kind of, for example, today at Klas, Lekan handles everything technical infrastructure. He handles the infrastructure. He also handles the engineering team, and like he manages the engineering team and kind of just ensures that technically the system can carry the weight load of our user base. While I handle operations, I handle the growth and operations team. I make sure that our financials are always steadfast and everything. And partnerships and all that. So like we have designated roles. Nobody overlaps into one another, into each other's roles, and it just helps us stay very focused.
Okay, and from the way you've explained it, and it just makes me recall one of the issues that we have with many startups. The concepts of corporate governance is lacking in most startups.
Yeah.
And just you've given me a glimpse, but I wanted to just maybe delve a little further into how you implement corporate governance in your company.
Yeah, I mean, basically, what corporate governance basically is having accountability, on how you run your company and all that. So having, whether it's advisors or boards, or a great board that basically just helps you, or rather works with you to ensure that the company is focused on the end goal. Like at Terra, right from day one, we have always had a board. When I first kind of started Terra, I was very insistent that especially this type of company that needs a board from day one. And I think where we are today is because of the guidance of our board. I'm currently the chairman of TerraHaptix. And I have to now basically be kind of be the middleman. Having meetings with the board almost every week, literally, and still ensuring that the engineers and the team is also kind of getting the right message. And all this is to ensure that the company doesn't lose sight of what it's meant to do. The company doesn't spend on the wrong things. The company doesn't lose who they are. So this has been a focus for both TerraHaptix and Klas, basically.
Okay. So you mentioned that you have a board, and I'm aware that TerraHaptix is just about 2 years.
Which one?
That's TerraHaptix.
2 years?
Yes.
No, it's 8 months.
8 months. Wow. And that's a board, a functioning board and vibrant one at that. Even for me personally, and I know a couple of other young persons who, have companies, it's sort of like a difficulty getting, people to even be a part of your board, not just the executive team, to be part of your board. So, if you may, can you share some of the criteria you used? How were you able to attract those persons to become members of your board?
Yeah. Again, it sort of comes down to just if you're building the right stuff, if you're solving a big critical problem, people would want to join you. I think there's really no tricks. There's no special tips. It's just build cool shit. Solve major problems, and I think you'll be able to attract the right people. I think with Terra, TerraHaptix is the perfect example of a company solving the right problem at the right time with the right people. When I set out to kind of start Terra, there were some pushbacks and all that, because of course I'm still running Klas till today. But for TerraHaptix, the problem was beyond just, I'm trying to, bank the unbank, or I'm trying to do some random things in the ecosystem and all that. It's a real problem that everyday people are facing. People are dying every day. Billions of dollars are being wasted across our core industries in Africa. The insecurity crisis is crippling African economies. And the West doesn't care about us. They are sending their worst inferior systems to African companies and agencies to protect their critical infrastructure. This is a problem that was critical, absolutely critical. How can we solve Africa's security crisis with native unmanned system, with indigenous unmanned systems? And when you're solving a problem like this, it's an uphill task, both technically and geopolitically, like this, you attract sort of the best brains. And that was how we're able to build a quite powerful board. We have the former chief of operations of the Air Force on our board.
Awesome.
We have an ex-Anduril executive. Anduril is one of the top defense companies today in the US.
Wow.
We have an executive from Total. So we have some really great minds on our board that have sort of come together to ensure that this company achieves what it has set out to achieve. And that is not to make a $10 million or $100 million. It is to save African lives and to build a modern security ecosystem to protect our critical infrastructure.
Okay, thank you. Now, speaking about Klas, what inspired you to build Klas, and what's your vision for it in the long run?
Yeah. What inspired me, it still goes back a couple years back, During the time that I was, out of school, that 6 months or so, that I was out of school, I had been trying to sort of enroll for online schools and all that. So that, at least to sort of keep the brain active while I recover. I couldn't really find any platform out there that really made online schooling easy. Now, when you say online schooling, it's very different from just running a random class on Zoom. Online schooling is an end-to-end experience. It goes from the class scheduling to the actual live classes to the assignments to the community to all this now tied together makes up an online schooling experience. And right now, or rather, before we started class, there was no true all-in-one platform for online schooling. If you want to run your own online school, you basically have to stitch together different tools, and it becomes this clumsy mess. It's a bad experience. It's way too expensive on your own end. The students are not learning shit. And so basically, that was what I set out to solve. The online schooling crisis. And we set out to build an all-in-one platform that enabled anyone, you, me, to launch an online school. So today we have people launching online schools on crypto, on tech, on business, and even on kind of non-formal things like, I've seen online schools on how to play guitar. I've seen them online schools on mental health. I've seen online schools on so many different things, how to bake a certain kind of cake. Like this, we're trying to democratize kind of knowledge sharing for everyone in a more organized manner. So that was what I set out to build with Klas a few years back. Today it's doing really great. As I said, we've been able to raise 1.3. We have over 700,000 users globally. And for us right now, our focus is how can we take Klas to the next level. The dream has always been to power up to 100,000 online schools. We're getting there. Right now we power just almost 10,000. But for us now is how can we get more people launching online schools on the platform? How can we enter into more countries? Before the end of this year, we plan to fully expand into India, and I think these are sort of the matters on hand for now. For the next 5 years, this is our focus. And yeah.
I hope your school is one of its how to build, $1 million company in less than 2 years. You have your own online school.
I actually plan on launching a physics school. Physics was my original passion before all this whole tech stuff. In fact, if you come to my house, I have a library of just physics books, quantum physics, particle physics, all that. I've always wanted to just start something for other physics nerds out there, like myself. So yeah, I may, if I find the time, just a fun side thing I'll be doing in the weekends.
Okay. Since you've mentioned that, let me ask you, if you weren't, building Klas, building TerraHaptix, what else do you think you're doing at the moment? Like me, I've always said, if I had the option of not, working, putting all the efforts, I just want to be a full house husband. So what about you?
I think if I wasn't building Klas, building TerraHaptix, if I wasn't in tech, generally, if I wasn't in tech, I would today probably be like a research physicist, or I'll be pushing to be a professor of physics. That was always what I wanted to do. I'll be kind of focused on trying to, I'll still be focused on solving critical problems. I mean, that is just me. I've always been obsessed with that. But I think it will be more from like a scientific approach. I'll probably have my own lab or institutes and just be doing research there. I think that's actually how I plan to retire. When all this is done, when I'm done with tech, in my late 30s, mid to late 30s, I actually plan to leave tech, and I want to become like a full-time physicist, and just disappear from the mainstream media.
So what legacy do you plan to leave behind?
I hope that by then, what I've built or the things I've built, which will be more than Klas and Terra, oh, trust me. It's able to solve some of the most pressing critical problems that Africa is facing today. I hope that my solutions, my products, my projects over the next 10, 20 years, it's able to be a lasting solution for things like insecurity, to things like food production, to things like remote education. This is my dream, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also, I don't know if you wish to have children.
I mean, well, eventually. I'm right now. I'm not really even interested in any of that. I'm single. I'm not. I see all that as a bit of a distraction for now. So I think for now, I have dedicated my entire life, or rather my entire self, to my projects.
Okay, well, if you eventually have children,
Yeah.
and the system of education is changing rapidly beyond the courses that are being offered.
Yeah.
So if your child walks up to you
Yeah.
and says, "Oh, Dad, what do you recommend I should study in school?" Because for example, like Mark Zuckerberg, he said he won't make any recommendation.
Yeah.
He said because the world right now, he said he's creating AI, so his child can just imagine what she wants to become,
Yeah.
and the AI will probably develop a code for whatever she wishes to make. So, what would be your response to your child at that moment?
I would basically, build anything that you can't be replaced in with tech. There are a lot of jobs that I don't think people really realize are doomed already. The current AI revolution that's happening is not a fraud. It's not an empty hype. It's real. And it's going to, and I know it's real because TerraHaptix literally, another way to call our drones are AI powered drones.
Yeah.
It's so I'll basically just tell my kid, that build something you can't be replaced in, build something that the world would need, go into something the world would need. Funny enough, agriculture is going to be one of the richest fields in the future. Resources are dwindling around the world. Food production would be one of the most pressing challenges that our urban civilization is about to face.
Yeah.
So I think the world may go back to its roots eventually.
So it will be a story of. So that means our president was not wrong. President of our country.
Technically.
So on final notes, I want to just maybe tell me like 4 habits you cultivate on a daily basis that contributes to your success today.
I try to have, I call it free Sundays, where basically I don't do any work on Sundays. My phones are switched off. I go to the beach and I just I basically meditate, and I do that almost the entire day. I do that every single Sunday.
Wow.
No matter where I am, whether it's Nigeria, anywhere, I always find the beach. So like that's kind of helps you distress, because at the end of the day, we are not machines. We are still humans.
Definitely.
Your head can get clouded, and funny enough, I've gotten my best ideas and inspiration during those moments. I think second is kind of being very careful who I let into my circle. I keep to myself quite a lot actually. But the people that I do kind of let into my circle, the people that I call my friends, every single one of them have been a massive value add to my life. I think a lot of people keep a lot of, quote in quotes, useless people. So I think kind of being very intentional about your network, because your network, I know this is a very cringe thing to say, but your network is your net worth. And I've seen that firsthand. Klas and Terrahaptix would never be where it is today without the network that I have today. Wow. It is insane how much impact your network can have. I can tell you that my knowledge only affected maybe 25%. Most of where I am today is just because I sort of knew the right people for every single step of the way. Whether it's right people technically, whether it's the right people that can connect to another set of right people, or like it's just crazy how that works.
Yeah.
I think the tech ecosystem is quite similar to like the oil ecosystem or so, where a lot of it comes down to just being able to network with the right people and kind of bringing your heads together to figure out, because you can't know it all.
True.
And that's, I think, that comes to my third point, something that I did very early on that helped me kind of get where I am very fast. When we are young and all that, a lot of young people, we try to do everything. If you're learning tech, they want to be the best engineer. If you're learning marketing, you want to be the best marketer. I always tell people, actually try not to be the best. Being a specialist is not the best way to go if you're building something. Sure, if you're learning just to have a job in that thing, that's fine. But what I'm saying now is an advice for entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs that have businesses or projects they want to build. You don't have to be a specialist, Rather be sort of a generalist, know a bit of everything. Then work with a specialist. That's the way. That's how to bring a project to life. Then I think the fourth is just not to overthink it. Nigerians especially, we are very fond of, we overplan everything. We plan the worst. We plan this thing. For example, when I was starting Terra, many people were like, think of it. So why haven't someone opened a drone factory in Africa before? Maybe there's this. Maybe the CIA will kill you. All this kind of stuff. Like, actually, I did. TerraHaptix has been the most geopolitically interesting company I've seen. I do not expect the amount of politics that is playing behind ground. But if I was thinking about that, I would have probably never started it.
Yes.
Because I would probably be too scared or something, And I think most times it's just that. It's not as hard or not as impossible as it seems. Most times it gets easier actually if you're already in there when you meet it. So I think that was basically my last advice. Don't overthink it too much.
Like the popular Nigerian musician said, overthinking does not solve any problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
So I think that's very true. So thank you so much, Nathan.
Yeah, I love to be here.
We had a very good conversation. It was very insightful. And we hope to have you some other time. Maybe when your company is a $1 billion.
And that means you won't have me next year.
Oh. Wow, let's see. I'm looking forward to it. I'm so looking forward to it.
Well, I always love having conversation with you, man. And I'm looking forward to having this chat.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.